Hey everyone, Matthew Cooler here. This is my most recent build project. It took me about 10 hours to complete. I'm really proud of it personally, and it looks pretty great, from this angle at least. As I walk around, you may start to notice that there are some things that don't look quite right, like this bridge. You see that? I'm inside of the bridge right now. So essentially what's going on is that I'm using a specific building technique called forced perspective. What that means is that you, the viewer, are only viewing this build from this angle. This is entirely for the screenshot. It is built exactly to look like this from that angle only. If I come over here to where you guys are, and I get out of free cam, and I just look over here, everything is messed up. Not a single thing in this build looks cohesive or makes any sense at all. It is completely just destroyed. So the goal of this video is to show you guys exactly what this building technique is, how you can do it for yourself, and how I did this build. Now let me be clear before I continue, this is not the first time a build like this has been done. If you guys have not been following the building tryhards in the community, this is actually a pretty popular thing. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shot at this because I'm an aspiring Minecraft builder. No, I just wanted to try it. And now that I know how to do it, I want to show you all how to do it as well. So stick around and I will teach you all the ways of perspective building. Let's get into it. The first thing I need to talk about for this build is the setup. This is one command block that teleports me and orients me in the exact way that I need to be looking so that when I decrease my FOV to 30 and press F1, the build looks great. This command block does nothing. Well, it does. It just teleports me back to 0, 0, where the rest of my test world is, but there are spoilers over there, so I don't want to show you guys that. And this wither skull was just there because that's just about where the player head is, so I kind of wanted to envision that. That doesn't really mean anything, but there you go. Now for the actual build. This was the first thing that we did. It was this foreground object here, which includes this hill and this tree with a swing on it. And you can see as I'm flying around that some things really do not look right with this build. You can see that some leaves are much bigger than the others. Some flowers are much bigger than the others too. I just really wanted to experiment with what I could do, and you can see that I'm using a lot of it here. This tree from the side looks ridiculous. This tree looks even more ridiculous. The basic principles of this technique really show in the swing tree here. You can see that this swing looks completely normal. The chains are right next to each other, but if I look at it from here, these are like 3 blocks apart, these chains, but they're like lined up like this. And this is the swing. And over here is the little bird that the swing sits on. When I do this, everything lines up just fine. And that's because it's not at a head-on angle. This is where the player is. We're looking at it from like over here. And that taught me a lot about how to manage where I am and stuff like that. Overall, this is a lot of trial and error. You kind of just have to place a block in the right spot and hope it works. These leaves up here are where I discovered I could do some really cool stuff. You can see that some leaves are like behind the other leaves and they're making a smoother canopy, I guess, of the tree. I think that's what it's called. And I think that's really cool. And that's what I did with the trunk here. You can see that I used a fence in the foreground and I used the actual trunk of the tree, and then I layered all this stuff behind it. It all comes together and it looks really smooth. It looks like an actual trunk of a tree, and it's got plenty of color in it. I think it's really sick. This is one of my favorite little bits. There's like a slight little corner there near the top of the tree, and that is from, I believe it's this fence that does that, which is really cool. You can layer so much, you can do so much cool stuff, and you can do the same thing here with this tree. Building trees that are this tall in Minecraft is really hard, honestly, but with perspective, you can shift what's real and what's not, and it looks pretty good, all things considered. I'm a big fan of the palette that I used. I used a lot of dark oak. I used this, what is this, gray terracotta, cracked nether brick walls, dark oak fences, dark oak signs, all that stuff. And then for the rocks, I think it's pretty simple, but I did want to use like stone bricks mainly because I think they look pretty stylized because you don't see people using stone bricks as rocks very often. So I just wanted this build to have a specific look to it, and the stone bricks I thought were the way to make that happen. And they actually turned out pretty good. I don't know if I'll be using them like that in the future, but I think they're pretty sick for what they are, especially because they have a mossy variant, which I can then bring into mossy cobblestone, and then my grass blocks appear, which include green concrete, green terracotta, green wool, and green moss. And then we have the flowers, the blue flowers, because we need another color in there. You can see that we've already got pretty much the color palette of this build established. We've got the blue, we've got the green is all over the place, we've got the gray, and we've got brown, dark dark brown. This is very Minecrafty in color. These are really the colors you see the most in the game, so it's pretty friendly to work with. And yeah, that was the first thing that we built here, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. I think I used the tools that I had very, very well. We did kind of have to move on and add more to this build. This bridge is really sick, and these pressure plates look like they make no sense. But when you put them in perspective, it's actually slanted, like a slanted rope bridge. These pressure plates give me complete control of the situation here, and I think they turned out really well. One thing that I really like about this bridge is that it's really, really thin right here, but this actually adds some depth to it. You can see this bridge looks a lot wider than it actually is. Like I demonstrated in the intro, I can just fall through it. It's some really cool stuff. I didn't have much room to work with it here because we have this whole background object, but you're not really looking over there as much, so I thought it was excusable. The colors are pretty simple. Brown candles on top of here, and then we have oak, jungle, and spruce. These are supposed to be like hanging ropes too. They're like really thick ropes, so I like that a lot. Anyway, attached over here is this little mountain here. I would say little, but it is kind of the biggest object in frame, and you can see that it really completes the image. And I got to work with a little more texturing here because we now have a source of water. One chatter suggested to do this, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So the rocks around the waterfall are now darker, and it makes the waterfall look so sick. This is my first time, I think, building a waterfall properly, and I'm really proud of it. It uses these white candles and white stained glass all over the place, and these blue colors, which I really enjoy. Light blue concrete powder, we've got packed ice, got another thing in here surely, right? Yeah, light blue wool, and we have light blue terracotta, or sorry, light blue glazed terracotta, rather. And that all completes this very, very nicely. And this cobweb here, you may not have noticed it, but it's a little splash. You don't see it right here, but the waterfall is technically, from your perspective, hitting down on this rock and flowing over here. And it looks pretty convincing, honestly. I'm super proud of that. I think the trees are the craziest looking things in this build, just because, you know, this does not make any sense when you look at it from this angle, but it really ties itself together here. I just wanted to make a simple other tree variant. So we really have like 3 types of trees. Well, I guess 4 if you count these trees without leaves. But yeah, I just wanted another tall object to fill in that space, and it really did. Filled in that space very, very nicely. After we built all of this stuff in the foreground, the background was looking really, really empty. So the first thing I did was add all of this lapis here as water. And then we had to move on and fix the background. The biggest change and really the most impactful thing in this build is the glass gradient. And you can really tell looking at it that there's something sick going on. Basically what this is we're counting up in binary. This is the formula for the glass gradient, and I can build this for you right now actually if I wanted to. So we're going to get 2 glass colors. We're going to try to transition from pink to orange. So we have the first color and we have the second color. We're trying to transition between these 2. Make a pattern like this and alternate going up. So now we have pink and orange, pink and orange, pink and orange. This doesn't make very much sense looking at it until you add another layer. We have 1 pink and we have 1 orange, and that's our pattern. We're now going to have 2 pink and 2 orange. Now do 4 pink and 4 orange, and then 8 pink, 8 orange. And now using Axiom, I'm going to stack these up, and now you actually have a pretty convincing gradient from pink to orange. And you can do this with every color of glass too, which is so cool. And there you go. Now you have a glass gradient. Basically what I did for this build, in order to save on space, I basically multiplied every unit of this gradient right here by 4. So instead of it being 1, 1, 1, 1 on the first layer, it was 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks. And this became 8 blocks, 8 blocks. This became 16 blocks, 16 blocks. This became 32 blocks, 32 blocks. We ended up with a 64 block tall gradient that covers the background completely. You might notice there's an extra layer of blue glass right here. This is light blue glass, but you know, point still stands. We have those clouds that are in perfect color, and then we have those clouds that are a little more blue and they look further back. And that is all because of this extra layer of glass right here. This creates depth. The next thing I built after doing the glass gradient were these clouds. I wanted to make some really wispy clouds, not wispy, I guess, but like flatter clouds, look a little more realistic, but still look Minecrafty. And this is what we came up with. That's just very simple white wool and white concrete powder. And then we did the same thing in the back here, and we made even further back looking clouds using white stained glass. Another background object I didn't really mention yet is this bridge here. And this bridge is actually really important to the composition of this build. One of my longtime chat members on Twitch came in and suggested a bunch of changes after day 2 of building. They actually sketched out something that really influenced my building here on out. The background used to be connecting to the water, and it didn't look quite right because the water is really supposed to look like it's going on forever, and the sky is supposed to look like the sky. But the bridge fixes that. It makes it look like the water keeps going on, and it makes the sky look like the sky. After that, we have these birds here, which I kind of spammed all over the place. These guys are really fun. These are open fence gates, open in different directions, of course, for some variation. And we have levers with black buttons on top of them, and they make birds. I don't know if they're geese, maybe? Geese? We can go with that. This was the best design I could come up with. I'm sure there are better ones out there, but for my purposes, that's pretty much perfect. And then we have this rail car here, which is pretty much the centerpiece of this build. It's kind of the first thing that you really look at. It's not the most complicated part of this build for sure, but it is pretty heavy on detail. I kind of just covered it in color. Just makes it look really cute. A really cute rail car. I like it a lot. And then lastly, this bridge here attached to these mountains. This bridge is really just meant to take up space because that is like a totally empty rectangle back there. So I just filled it in with the bridge. And these background mountains just really add so much life to this build. And they're very simple. They're covered in birch leaves because they're supposed to be darker, and the birch leaves really help it darken and take your attention away from like the lower parts of it. Instead of using the blue orchids and the nether sprouts, I instead used these candles because the nether sprouts and blue orchids actually ended up looking way too bright and they were kind of distracting. So I replaced these with 4-piece cyan candles and they ended up looking great. And I also used pretty much exclusively bushes because bushes are dark. And honestly, that's kind of the whole build. Thank you all very much for watching this video. I had a blast with this project and I hope you all had a good time listening to me explain it. Yeah, this build has been awesome. It was a lot of fun. Pretty much every time I placed a block, I was learning something new. And that is so cool. I did all of that learning and placing, by the way, live on Twitch. You can find my Twitch in the description. I streamed pretty much this whole build process. That was a lot of fun. We would always appreciate more people to come and hang out. It's a pretty small community over there, but we would love to grow. But again, thank you all very much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I know that I will, even though it's very late for me right now. Okay, bye now. Bye, everyone.